Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got quite a bit to cover today. We're tracking the remnants of Cyclone Cody, a cold change on the way for New Zealand with a big cold front coming through over the next couple of days. We're tracking a rainmaker across Australia that's moving to the east, and the weather around Tonga. And we'll start with Tonga up here. So the good news is there hasn't been a significant eruption this morning, at least not when we recorded this. And if there is any sort of small eruption today, the good news is the southeasterly flow means any ash will just sort of go out to sea. If there's a big eruption, then Fiji will have to pay a bit more attention. But at this stage, it's looking much better up there. Chance of a shower this afternoon, that'll be good to help wash the ash away. But then it does look dry for the next sort of 4 or 5 days ahead. So hopefully there will be a couple of showers around today in Tonga. You can see the remnants of Cody passing over the Chatham Islands. It'll be bringing some wind and rain there. And in New Zealand, the cold front doesn't yet show up, but it is coming out of the Southern Ocean. In Australia, plenty of rainmakers around this southeastern corner, and that's about to slide eastwards or northwards along the eastern side over the next few days. So you'll see that in a moment. Here's the wind map. So you can see Cody quite clearly right next to the Chatham. So a windy day, but the winds should ease as we go across today as the storm not only weakens, but also starts to move away. You can see up here in Tonga, there is that big southeasterly flow. It's quite a large one coming from a big high east of New Zealand. There's a low here worth keeping an eye on, heading towards Rarotonga, may well turn into a tropical cyclone. And here is that colder change building south of New Zealand. So we kick off with the forecast maps for Wednesday, now showing 24 hours of rainfall to give you a better understanding. Now, some people say that it's a little bit hard to work out what's happening in my region. The maps are so small. That's where you use your local weather watch or rural weather forecast for your hyper-local part of the country. So if it shows you a few showers, these videos and these maps will help you work out if it's real, a really good chance of showers or just a couple of isolated ones. So you can see here on Wednesday, there is the big blue line. That's the cold change starting to get closer to us. But before it arrives, it'll be hot. Christchurch will be up around the late 20s or early 30s on Wednesday before the cold change moves in. There's a bit of rain here in the south, around about 10, 15, maybe 20 millimetres, so not a huge amount. And plenty of wet weather in Australia drifting further along that eastern side. By the way, the southerly that's coming in due to this big high south of Australia, anticyclonic wind, so it scoops down off the screen and then comes back up. So by Thursday, that colder airflow is now across the South Island and the lower North Island. Everyone gets a temperature drop. Places like Christchurch, as I say, maybe around 30 degrees on Wednesday, a high of 17 on Thursday, so much cooler. There's the rainfall coming in. It's around about 15 millimetres or so, but check your local forecast to get a better idea of what's actually coming in. And for the North Island, the blue, it's the pale blue, so only 1 to 5 millimetres, not very much at all. Now by Friday, everyone will be feeling the temperature drop, but those in the very north of New Zealand will barely notice it. It'll only be a couple of degrees, if that. But the South Island will be much cooler, and showery weather across New Zealand. The pale blues you're seeing there, the bottom of the screen, just a couple of isolated showers, up to maybe 5 millimetres over a whole 24-hour period. So not a huge amount of rain coming through. Also, up here around Rarotonga, there is that storm that potentially could become a tropical cyclone. Easterlies blowing through over Tonga, a couple of showers. Any volcanic eruptions will be sending ash westwards away from Tonga. So the weekend looks like this. There is that storm near Rarotonga, worth keeping an eye on. Not really for New Zealand. It's well away from us. But if you know people in Rarotonga, plenty of heavy rain and strong winds coming through with that. There's also a big rainmaker in Alice Springs, the desert. This is, as I said yesterday, they've had a number of big rainmakers for the last 12 months. Here comes another one with about, 30, 40 millimetres coming for them. Keep in mind, they get less than 250 millimetres a year, so that's quite a lot for them. But New Zealand's mostly dry here on Saturday. No rain showing up, really just a couple of very isolated light showers. And our final map for Sunday shows something a little bit interesting. We've got 3 rainmakers on here, and actually if you zoomed out across the globe, it's not just this 1, 2, 3 showing up. There's several showing up in the Indian Ocean and even in Argentina. So there's a lot of rain going around the southern hemisphere at the moment, around about this latitude. So here's a possible cyclone on Sunday near Rarotonga, not a threat to New Zealand. We've got a few showers around Tonga, nothing too major there. We've got the downpours continuing through Australia, that's quite interesting. But it's this rainmaker here north of New Zealand that we'll be watching very closely as we go into next week. Now, with high pressure down here, it'll be a little bit like Cyclone Cody. This will be pushing back, trying to push that rain back northwards. But there is a rainmaker in here that's going to try to come down. So if you're curious to see if you've got a chance of rain, check the Weather Watch and Rural Weather Forecast, because our IBM supercomputer Watson takes not just this computer model GFS, but it takes all the computer models that are reliable, and it will crunch out a number for you up here, say in the far north, giving you an estimation of how much rain's coming and the percentage of that. So that's a better way of kind of crunching up what I've just talked about and the risks in your part of the country. That's all from me. We'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next update.